Welcome to The Next Human. My name's Arav, and today I'm here with Shantanu Nigam, a serial entrepreneur and investor in health AI companies. Thank you so much for being here today and joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So the first thing I just like to ask is, what is your life story? So how did you basically get to where you are today, and what was your journey like?
Yeah, sure. I did my schooling back in India, did my engineering there, and I had a business plan to create search in a certain way, change the way the search was done back in late 90s. That was pre-Google timeframe. And
Hmm.
I shared this business plan with a person who was visiting from New York. He
Yeah.
liked it. I got here, started a little company. It failed in a year and a half. Then I did some more management consulting work. And for about 8, 9 years after that, with a few partners, built a healthcare company. It was a product company. The thesis in that company was predicting risk doesn't really change the outcome on patients uh, because the riskiest patients are not where you can make an impact. To make an impact on patients by applying AI, you do not need to predict risk. You need to understand modifiability of the patient and understand intervention effectiveness. What that means is which intervention can change the outcome.
Hmm.
So we built a company on this thesis. We were competing with tons of companies in the market who were only predicting risk, including IBM Watson and others. We ran that company, me and my partners ran that company for about 8 years. Then we exited the company to private equity. And then I became an investor.
Hmm.
That's about it.
So you mentioned you originally studied in engineering, and obviously you've made the pretty big shift to like entrepreneurship and investing. So like, how was that transition for you? Was it difficult, or did it just something that came naturally?
So it's difficult. Yeah, any transition, it's a little bit of learning experiences there.
Hmm.
But I think if the underlying reason why you are making a transition is very strong, then the difficulties do not really mean too much, and they don't even seem to be that big. Like from my engineering, I was very motivated to do something in AI back in late 90s.
Hmm.
I did my BTech project in AI, and that's when I started that company, which eventually failed. But that desire, hunger was still there. And then I found right people to partner with, and we ended up doing something even more remarkable
Hmm.
11, 12 years later. And the mission to do what we did, the drive to apply AI to reduce avoidable harm was such a big mission that that transition doesn't really feel bad. In fact, you embrace the transition, embrace the learnings there. And
Hmm.
then similarly, after that, becoming an investor was a big transition as well. And it required some limping and some learning, some scar tissues. But the mission there was, can we apply our knowledge of making an impact to healthcare to not just one company and one solution? Can we apply it in a way that we can share our knowledge and experience to make 20 changes in the industry, which means help 20 companies that are trying to make a change, a positive change?
Hmm.
So, with that underlying premise, it becomes much easier to navigate the challenges of transition.
Nice. And do you think your initial setbacks and you said failures were things that you like now regret, or you kind of appreciated and learned from?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, when you know what you did wrong, sometimes you regret because you want to go back in time and fix it. But
Hmm.
that's also 20 years back, 20 plus years back. I think it's all a learning experience. I mean, if you do not learn anything from a failure, then it's bad. Failures are very good. And one of the things that we did as we were building our last healthcare company, which was called JBON,
Hmm.
within the company, we built this culture of encouraging failure. And I think some part of it came from some of my personal experience of failure and some of our other partners' personal experience of failure. So we encourage failure. So we would actually look at our data scientists and clinicians and tell them to solve a problem. And if you're not able to solve it, come and share on our weekly meeting. They would stand up on the podium and share how they failed, and then we would celebrate that. That encourages a culture of taking risk and trying to solve a difficult problem. Because if you do not embrace failure, then you'll always be scared of solving difficult problems because you'll be like, well, what if I fail? The real problems and the real innovation happens when people are fearless and not afraid of failure and are willing to put their reputation online to solve a difficult problem which has 10% probability of success. But even then, you do it. And when
Uh,
you succeed, then you succeed. If you fail, you're not going to be shunned. You're going to be celebrated. That's when you keep on doing it.
nice. And kind of a little further from the side of failure, I just wanted to hear a little bit about what you're doing now and just I mean, yeah, just like how, you've learned from your failures.
Yeah. So there are a lot of, anecdotal examples, a lot of tactical things that you learn. I'll give a couple examples. Like we are helping companies right now to build products that make positive change in healthcare and helping them to sell it into the healthcare market, which means providers or payers or pharma largely.
Mm,
Providers are like health systems and clinics. Payers are like insurance companies. Pharma is pharmaceutical companies. So when you're going and selling to providers primarily, we see a lot of companies selling financial ROI to clinicians. These are fundamental mistakes that we see companies do again and again. And clinicians, a lot of clinicians don't care about financial ROI. They do care about patient-based ROI. If we tell
mm,
a nurse a patient will have less pain, their bandage will need to be changed only 2 times instead of 4 times if you apply my technology, they will like that solution and buy it. If you tell them it's going to cost instead of $75, it's going to cost $59, they are transparent to the billing process. The billing process is so obscure and so much disconnected from nurses' activities,
mm,
they cannot buy that solution. So this is one example, but there are like 25 other examples like that. These are all anecdotal, tactical things that you learn from failure. But I think the biggest thing you learn from all the failures is that it's okay to fail and it's okay to try new things as long as the motive was there. If sloppiness resulted in failure, that's a problem. If you put your
mm.
best foot forward and your underlying intention was right to do the right thing and you failed, you should be proud of it. And if you keep doing that, you ultimately get to success. And if you do not do that, then you will stop before you get to success because someday you'll be scared of failure and you'll stop.
Nice. And just on the topic of healthcare, and I guess in line with the theme of the next human, I was just thinking, what is your opinion on what the next or basically how is the next step in healthcare will be and or maybe is right now?
Yeah. So that's a very profound question and profound point. So I'm going to give a slightly longer answer on this one because I want to give
Mm,
some background here because this I think about this a lot. And so we humans have existed for about 300,000 years.
mm,
And just imagine in the last 150 years, we've gone from horse carriages
yeah.
to man on moon and to DNA sequencing, genome projects, to understanding humans, MRI, X-ray, that people could not have imagined 150 years back when we didn't even have electricity. And
Mm,
150 years in the large scheme of things is not even talking about cosmic scale. If humans existed for a day, then 150 years is just less than the last minute of a day. In just that much time, we've changed so much. So now imagine next 50 years. There's going to be a lot of change. There's going to be change we can imagine and change we cannot even imagine. To answer your question, from a
mm,
healthcare standpoint, I think the things we can imagine, I can share, and there are going to be plenty more. But I think fundamentally, healthcare is about when we talk about next human, healthcare is a big component of that, the health of human. I'm going to only focus on that because that's the only area I understand. So on the healthcare side of human, um, healthcare is all about patient. Everything else is just noise and support, like better billing, better technology, and all these things. I
mm,
think what will happen is not even 50 years before that, the we will have a much better understanding of disease before symptoms start showing up and a much better understanding of preventing diseases.
uh-huh,
So cure will be there for almost all the things we can think of. And even more important than cure is there'll be more proactive intervention. So by the time cancer cells show up in a human, by the time deterioration happens, there are a lot of other underlying things that are happening in patients that people are only beginning to understand now. We did some of that in our work. But I think that work will go up many more levels, and we will have such a good understanding that we will prevent any of these diseases to happen. So humans will die either in accidents or because of old age, not because they have a disease that we do not know how to cure. So I think that's going to be one major change in how care is delivered to patients.
And do you think that the first step in making that change is analyzing the heaps of data that the healthcare companies have on like past like patients and everything?
Yeah, so that's definitely the first step. There are a lot of other steps. There are a lot of regulatory challenges. Incentives are today not aligned in healthcare. So these are all the challenges. And I'll tell you what I mean by that in a quick 17-second version.
Mhm.
Um, the people who are responsible, who get paid for taking care of patient, they get paid less money if patients get well sooner. That's one of the bad incentive alignment. So I think a lot of things need to change in our infrastructure of healthcare. But once those changes start to happen, where there's right incentive alignment and right motivation for people to share data and derive intelligence from data, what
Mhm.
you said is precisely what should happen. We should dig this data deeper. We should get more and more data and be more open to sharing it. And once we do all of that, we will have the right technology. We probably have the right technology. Then we will have the right technology, right means, and right studies to support it. And we should be able to eliminate avoidable harm on patients completely.
Mhm. And I was just thinking like on that note, do you have any more like you could say about the kind of framework of if a patient gets better sooner, then they'll doctor will not earn as much. Just your thoughts on that and kind of I don't know like alternatives or something, just how that would kind of look.
Yeah, that's well, we can spend a whole day on that topic.
Yeah, because
But
it's something that's it's important, but it's just the way everything has always been. And yeah, it's just
yeah, it's the way everything has always been. Also, the people who can make that change are there are lobbies, there are a lot of things that come into play,
Mhm.
right? So the payers who actually pay for care, like the insurance companies, they are more interested in paying less for patient care than longer term patient health.
Mhm.
So if they, for example, because every year your contracts renew. So for example, they would, if they want to pay $1,000 to do a test today, that might reduce the chances of something else happening to a patient 4 years later. That doesn't really work for their quarterly results very well.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's these kind of things. So there's a lot of change that should happen to support, and these things should and will happen. And maybe it'll be some reform, or maybe it'll be just new technology. People like you, your generation, who are thinking about these kind of things. The fact that you are doing these kind of podcasts without any club behind you, I mean, it's that kind of energy that's needed in the
Mhm.
next generation to make this kind of change.
Yeah, first, thank you. But also, this conversation just kind of reminded me of the quote that I forgot how it goes, but it's like a good doctor will treat the disease, and a great doctor will treat the patient with the disease. And I think this is a different context, but I think same principle applies that um, the the real problem isn't um the I guess the level that healthcare is at right now, but um the way we dole out the healthcare and people receive treatment needs to also change. And yeah, so I guess just kind of backtracking a little in our conversation, I think you're talking about diagnosis at one point, and or sorry, not diagnosis, but predictive healthcare. And I was thinking what you thought about the role that artificial intelligence plays in making these kinds of decisions.
Yeah, great question and great point. So there are two things there. One is finding the right cure for a known disease, right? And that's one thing. AI, data, technology, innovation can help quite a lot. And
Mhm.
it's not just because you can look at data and find some patterns. It's much more than that. You could accelerate clinical trials that take 7 to 10 years. If you build the right models and do it, that you can accelerate them to be done in a few months. When you have that kind of acceleration of that kind of advancement of learning, then you can find better cure. So that's one, finding the right cure.
Mhm.
Second thing is not even going to the point of needing cure, proactively finding um, uh, diseases in patients before even symptoms start showing up. By the time human physiology is very complex, by the time the symptoms show up, a lot of other things have happened in our
Mhm.
physiology. In most diseases that we understand, we do not understand some diseases, so we make guesses on those. But in most diseases, like acute myocardial infarction, okay, there's a stroke, there's that. But by the time that happens, there's already things are happening in your veins. There's in the clogging happening, calcium levels are rising, your organs fail. By that time, oxygen levels are going down in organs. There's a lot of things happening. So the right technology and right motivation to identify those things before even diseases start to show up. So I think if you combine those two things, then we should find the next human should be the all of us should be people who do not who where we find their deterioration before symptoms show up. So we should stop it before even diseases show up. And once in a while, when the disease does show up, we have the right cure to take care of them. That combination should result in what I think how humans should live our lives,
Mhm.
and call it next human or call it whatever. Now, to make that happen, you need a lot of other things to happen as well, right investment, right incentive alignment of various forces in healthcare, right technology. And maybe if it doesn't happen in US, it might happen in Europe or some other place, and then we start following that. But something
Yeah.
like that.
So, just a question, is that kind of the goal of what you're effectively trying to accomplish with your investments and everything?
Yeah, one of the goals. The
Mhm.
other goal is, as an investor, it's your fiduciary duty to provide returns to your investors. So
Uh-huh.
one of the goal is to find ways to make money, but an underlying goal is definitely to see if we can help that path towards that ultimate goal, that desired outcome,
Mhm.
where those two factors are realized. Um, so that's definitely
And just for clarification, the two factors you're talking about are one, like the motivation for this, and the other, like the innovation also.
You could say that.
Uh-huh.
The way I would say it, it's very synonymous, but the way I would say it are is one. First one is being able to find cure for all diseases,
Uh-huh.
and second one is being able to identify diseases before symptoms even show up.
Got it. Got it. Um, yeah, so that's a very inspiring goal, I'd say. Um, and yeah, I mean, so that is definitely something that is in the near future, but I think we're definitely seeing a lot of things being done even today that are pointing us in the right direction and are getting us closer, even though they might be things that end up failing.
Yeah,
I think you'd say that we could definitely learn from those experiences.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, so that was great. Thank you for that. And I guess one thing I just like to ask in general, when we're closer to the end of these interviews, is what is on the topic of new people, entering, and just what is one piece of advice you'd give to young people, like high schoolers or even just anyone in general, people who are hoping to contribute and make this future a reality?
Yeah, I would probably repeat what I said a few minutes back, that
Mhm,
innovation happens, progress happens from innovation.
mhm,
Innovation happens when people take risk and try new things, do it in a way it hasn't been done. And whenever you do something that hasn't been done, the likelihood and probability is lower of success because your outcome is not well defined.
mhm,
So you should not be, and none of that will happen if you're scared of failure. So you should not be scared of failure. Keep pushing change. Keep pushing new things. New generation. We all look forward to all the amazing things new generation can do. Just like you're running this podcast here in high school. I was probably playing ball,
mhm,
and that would be my most biggest contribution in high school. So it's amazing to see this energy of
mhm,
just understanding what's going to happen in 50 years. Just the fact that you're thinking about, can I imagine what's going to happen in 50 years and interview people about it?
mhm,
It's this energy that you got to keep it alive and not let it go into. Don't let it let it go away as you enter the corporate world.
mhm.
Keep pushing change. Don't be scared of failures.
Thank you for the advice and the compliments. And yeah, I think that's all I have today. So thank you.
Very good. Congratulations, Saurabh. You're doing great. This is a great initiative. I'd love to check out more of your interviews.
Great. Thank you. And yeah, thanks for the conversation and just advice. So yes,
Yeah.
great. All right,
Right.
great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.